When Hamilton County Assistant Prosecutor Melissa Powers took the stand, Joseph Paul Franklin began looking tense. Powers is the woman who got Franklin to admit on audio tape that he Dante Evans Brown and Daryl Lane.
I did it. I just, the only thing I can say is I did do it.
And can you also tell me why you did it?
I was trying to get rid of all the ugly people in the world.
Okay.
And
why did you
I
select?
consider the blacks the ugliest people of all.
The victim's family listened to the confession, hearing Franklin describe in a casual, even cold way how boys.
I just put the gun right on the biggest dude first, and fired one shot with that 44 Magnum. And so, I just heard somebody make a sound like like they just got shot. And as soon as the other guy bolted, it was just like through a miracle that I got him, man. I did not even aim the gun at him, man. As soon as he heard that shot, he just bolted and started running. And I aimed the gun without even, just in the dark there, just hoping that I would get a lucky shot and hit him, And sure enough, it actually got him.
What exactly is this thing that we call racism, white supremacy? Looking at why do white people behave in the way that they do. You see, in concluding that it has to do, number one, with their minority status on the planet, their genetic recessive status, in that they could experience genetic annihilation, in that the overwhelming majority of people on the planet are black, brown, red, and yellow. And whites constitute fewer than 1/10 of the people on the planet.
Happy Saturday, happy Saturday, happy Saturday. Welcome back to On the Shoulders of Giants. I am Joseph Ward here, bringing you some Negro news today on this Saturday. As you can see by my thumbnail, we are getting into this Diddy trial to see what's going on, get caught up to speed on the Diddy trial. But before we get to that, because that's going to be our main story, because I have 3 stories. I got 3 things today to talk about, but that's going to be our main thing to get into this Diddy trial, because it's the big thing right now, and it is significant for our community, because we could potentially, we know that we have Black America has a history of supporting people who are a threat and danger to our community, but this could be something that has potentially put somebody back into our community who actually is a threat. Or is Diddy actually being railroaded? We don't know. So we're gonna get into it. Let's go back to our main story. The first thing we're getting into is correlated to the opening video. Charles Leto. There's a lifeguard named Charles Leto who has executed 2 black boys, and he's claiming self-defense. The white man is saying that the young black boys were trying to steal his stuff and trying to harm him, and he executed 2. Well, he executed 1 black boy and fatally wounded another. So we're going to get into that story. That's going to be our first story. Now, second story, we're getting into the Carmelo Anthony case, to get an update on the Carmelo Anthony case, because Carmelo has been indicted. And I found an interesting video from the lead attorney who's breaking down why he believes, or contributions he believes have led to Carmelo Anthony being indicted, because of the faulty defense team that was created by the Carmelo Anthony family, and the way that defense team conducted themselves within the proceedings. So we're gonna get into all of that. Make sure you hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and share. Hit that like button. Make sure as many people tune into this live. Share. Invite all your friends, families, confidants, everybody, your loved ones to this live. We want to make sure we get this information. Now, we're having fun. We're gonna dive into some real topics today, but we're gonna have some fun with it. We're gonna laugh. We're gonna do all types of stuff going up and down. But we're gonna mostly learn, but we're gonna have fun while we're learning. So make sure you hit that like button and invite as many people in as possible, because it's going down on this Saturday. And make sure you go check out yesterday's video. Shout out to Pat, shout out to PC, Professor Carl Tone Jones, Patrick Irvin. Shout out to them. Make sure you check out yesterday's video as we talked about we gave our take on independence. Professor Carl Tone Jones put together a landmark documentary called the Independence Day Project. And the question in the Independence Day Project is, what does an independent Black community look like free of white supremacy? And the documentary was centered around that question and answering that question, and putting together ideas. Like it's like a digital think tank that was put together to put together the ideas of what a independent Black community free of white supremacy would look like. If you want to check out that documentary, there's actually a link on my website. See my website scrolling at the bottom of the screen. There's a link on my website to get that documentary, so go check it out. PC did a good dang on job, so check that out. We gave our own version of that. You know, can Black independence become a reality? That's what we got into. So and links in the description to support Pat and PC as well. But let's go ahead and get into what Charles Leto talking about. We're about to get on his ass. We're about to have some fun in this. So let's do it.
Charged with shooting and killing one teen and wounding another
Hold
is scheduled.
on. Let me remove this.
Hearing tomorrow. This as the family. That lifeguard charged with shooting and killing one teen and wounding another is scheduled to appear at a detention hearing tomorrow. This as the family of the boy who was killed demand justice. Relatives of 15-year-old Marjay Dotson create a makeshift memorial for the teen at the Westside Park where he was killed and his teenage friend was wounded just hours after charges are filed against the lifeguard accused of the crime. The teen's family members asked not to be identified on camera.
He was just 15. His bright spirit and loving heart touched us all. We cherish his memory forever.
Chicago police say 55-year-old Charles Leto now faces multiple charges, including murder, attempted murder, and aggravated battery and discharge of a firearm for the attack that happened around 7 o'clock Thursday night in the 1400 block of South Sacramento Drive in Douglas Park. According to a police report obtained by the ABC7I team, the alleged gunman is a lifeguard with the Chicago Park District. Witnesses tell police Leto opened fire on Dotson and his 14-year-old friend, Jeremy Herod, as they walked toward him. Dotson was struck in the back, while Herod, a cousin of Laquan McDonald, who was killed by Chicago police in 2014, was shot in the neck. While Herod remains hospitalized, Dotson was killed in the incident. According to a police report obtained by the ABC7I team, investigators say Leto has a concealed carry license and told officers that he was defending himself after he claims the teens attacked him and followed him and tried to steal his bike. A witness, along with family members of both teens, deny there was any altercation or provocation involving Leto. Meanwhile, those who knew and loved Marjay Dotson are grateful for the well wishes and support as they mourn their loss.
Your love, support, and understanding means so much to us during this incredibly difficult time. We just want you.
Now, an attorney for one of the families of the victims says that neither of the boys was armed, and he would like to see prosecutors charge the suspect with a hate crime. That suspect is due in court tomorrow afternoon.
That's great.
So, Charles Leto, right? Charles Leto is claiming self-defense. Let me take this down. All right. Charles Leto is claiming self-defense. Okay. So I started with the clip that I started with for a reason. It was a trial of a white man explaining why he executed a number of black men. The white man in the first clip, in the opening clip, his explanation was he was attempting to rid the world of the ugly people, and he considered the African American, the black people, FBA, ALOS, whatever we want to call ourselves, right? He considered us the ugliest people on earth. And the idea was earth needs to be rid of these ugly people, and earth needs to only be populated by the beautiful people, which he would consider as his people, the white people. So a eugenicist at heart. And then I coupled that with the clip of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing giving her theory on white genetic annihilation, that white people carry out the behavior that they carry out, especially white supremacists. White supremacists carry out the behavior that they carry out because of their fear of genetic annihilation. They believe that the black Americans, or black people period, have the greatest melanin in their body, the greatest amount of melanin in their body, and the greatest chance to get rid of the white race through mating, to populate them out, because we have dominant genes and they have recessive genes. And so I'm using that as a framework to help me look at the actions of Charles Leto, a 55-year-old Chicago Park District lifeguard who's charged in the shooting and the wounding of one black boy and the executing of another black boy. And Charles Leto is claiming that the boys stole his bicycle and they were attempting to harm him. But there's no evidence to point that the boys were such any threat to Charles Leto. There was no evidence to prove that Charles Leto's, because his bike was moved. So there's no proof to show that those boys that he attacked moved his bike. There's no proof at all that these were these young men. Is it a case of a white man taking his anger out on the first innocent black people that, or the low-hanging fruit black people that he found? Because it was teens, young black teens, young unarmed black teens who decided, or who were outside playing, having fun, doing what they were doing, and Charles Leto decided to use them as the targets of his anger. So I got this article from CBS News that tried to help me get a little more information on this. So, like I said, it was the lifeguard Charles Leto is charged in the shooting that killed one teenage boy and wounded another, and that was in Douglas Park last week, and that's being tied to another shooting because they say he has a history, not necessarily of humans, but I think he shot dogs in the past. So Charles Leto was ordered held in first appearance court on Sunday on one count each of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, aggravated battery, and aggravated discharge of a firearm. He's charged in the shooting this past Thursday evening that killed 15-year-old Marjay Dotson and seriously wounded 14-year-old Jeremy Harris this past Thursday in Douglas Park in the North Lawndale neighborhood. Jeremy is the cousin of Laquan McDonald, who was shot and killed by the police in 2014. Prosecutors say Leto opened fire on the teens following a quarrel with a third teenage boy identified as victim 3 after Leto found his bike had been moved. There was no evidence that the people who moved the bike were the teen victims in the case, nor that the teen boys threatened Leto or were armed, the prosecutors say. Jackie Corvus Michaels said when Leto was her neighbor 2 years ago, he shot both of her dogs, killing one and injuring the other in her alley next to her garage in Lakeview's Chicago neighborhood. Corvus Michaels said she was taking out the trash when Leto walked out of his apartment, saw her 2 dogs, walked back inside, grabbed the gun, and came out firing at the animals. So that's one of the things that they're using to kind of paint a picture of the behavior of Charles Leto. Of course, that's not enough information for us to paint an overall picture of the behavior of Charles Leto, but it is something in the bank that we can use to look at behavior patterns of Charles Leto. Because if what Corvus Michaels is saying, if that is true, what she's saying, Charles Leto might be crazy. Charles Leto might be a crazy racist. Charles Leto might be some kind of serial harmer of people, right? Because of what Michaels is saying, she's claiming she was merely walking her dogs, and then in the midst of walking her dogs, he saw the dogs, went back inside, grabbed his gun and shot the dogs. Similar to the young men outside playing, he gets into it with one, according to the story, he gets into it with one, but there's no evidence of any aggression from the boys or any weapons from the boys. He pulls out a gun and he shot one. We shot two, killed one, and killed another. Right, so I appreciate you, Tiffany. You is too. You is too. Thank you for tuning in. See, Anika Corey, I prefer to be called African because that's who we are. We got Leave America. At least I'm going to eventually. This mess keeps happening. Hey, I ain't telling nobody where to go, and I ain't telling nobody what to call themselves, but I will say the system of white supremacy is a global system. It's a global system. It didn't start in America. It is a global system. So we have to defeat the system of white supremacy global, because this stuff happens to people of color, Black people, African people all over the globe. So I get you. I'm not against the sentiment, but I am for defeating the system of white supremacy. Globally, Black people, African people globally are persecuted and oppressed globally by white supremacy. So we got to stomp this out globally, not just here in America, because this might be the height of it, but it's not the beginning of it, right? But that's another thing too, like looking at the history of white supremacy, right? Looking at the savage history of people who they sharpened their iron warring against themselves, and then they went out globally to conquer the globe with a warring mindset, with a warring culture, right? So if they can commit eugenics and genocide on themselves, they can definitely do it to the rest of the world, and they have no problem taking our people out. They have no problem taking our young Black boys out. Our young Black boys are targets for the system of white supremacy. Even going into what we're going to talk about with Carmelo Anthony, our young Black boys, Black men. Remember, Black men are the biggest threat, are seen as the biggest threat as far as from African people, Black people. We're seen as the biggest threat to the system of white supremacy from our standpoint, because we are the muscle of our group. So, of course, keep the Black male disadvantaged, keep the Black male effeminized, erase the Black male off the map, make sure the Black males are erasing themselves off the map. Socially engineer these Black men into always operating like boys and males and girls. And if they don't operate like that, take them out, right? So, yeah. So let me read a little more. Don't you think there's something wrong when someone who keeps shooting people and dogs, Corvus Michael said, God knows what else he's gotten away with. CBS News Chicago did a story on the case back in February 2023 and how a SWAT team came to look for a shooter after he walked away. SWAT came, FBI, Corvus Michael said, we had helicopters. So this dude Leto is crazy. He's a crazy suspected white supremacist. That's what we're gonna go with Charles Leto. So far from what I'm reading, Charles Leto is a crazy suspected white supremacist. Says Jason Reels Network says African gain power, and all people will be respected no matter where they are on the planet, just like the Chinese. Yes, Jason. Yes. Power is taken, respect is taken. You're not gonna get respect because you beg for it, because you try to appeal for it, because you try to make people feel bad about how they treated you. No, they slapped us in our face, punched us in our face, and took the power from us, and we're gonna have to do that to get it back. Like, our scholars have already told us that, our elders have already told us that, they've already given us the information and laid everything out. Charles Leto is, once again, in the spirit of what you were saying, Charles Leto is helping to reinforce white supremacy, reinforce their dominance, using that force to reinforce what they're doing. They saying that White supremacy ain't dying no time soon, and we're gonna take out anybody that's a threat to white supremacy. My brother Damon Reeves, I appreciate you as always. Thank you for tuning in. I definitely appreciate you, my brother. You know, this Charles Leto dude, man, I came across this story. I think I was scrolling through Instagram, and I came across this story saying that this lifeguard had taken the life of one black boy and almost taken the life of another black boy. Like, the other black boy right now is fighting for his life and his health. He's fighting for his life and his health in the hospital because of the actions of this suspected white supremacist who just so happened to loke up, right? And he's saying, Charles Leto is saying that he was defending himself. There's no evidence that he needed to defend himself. And this is totally different from the Carmelo Anthony case, right? Because in the Carmelo Anthony case, of course, Carmelo also said he was defending himself, but according to the police report, he had reason to. So, of course, we need to find more information on this story. And, of course, you know, I will keep my eye on the story. But I thought this was interesting to start off with, getting into the mindset of the white supremacy, helping us understand why they do what they do, right? So make sure you check out my Monday reading videos. You have to check out my Monday reading videos. If you're not checking out my Monday reading videos, you tripping, because that is helping us understand the mindset of the white supremacists and understand the mindset of ourselves, the oppressed, right? So this upcoming Monday's video, we're going to be talking about the origins. Like, Dr. Clark is dropping some major gems. It's Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust. He's dropping major gems, giving us the origins of white supremacy, how white supremacy came about, why white supremacy needed to come about, why they felt they needed to come about. They felt they needed to come to power, especially during the Crusades. The Crusades really helped bring the white supremacy system together under Christendom. And Dr. Clark goes back to the year like 1025 and 1026, talking about the First Crusade and why the need for Europe to unite under Christendom, to strengthen themselves against the infidels who were the Arabs, the Africans, and the Jews, right? Because remember, the Crusades were wars against the Muslims, Christians, and Jews, all fighting for the Holy Lands. But we know they're all fighting for land, power, wealth, and resources. It was either going to be white power, it was either going to be Arabic power, it was going to be Jewish power, right? But somehow they all found a way to still work together under the banner of what? White supremacy, right? Yeah. We ain't crazy. That's why I love what I do. I love these interactions. I love reading these books. I love putting all these pieces of the puzzle together. We got to respect the homeland. We got to respect each other. Like, we have a lot of respect that we have to learn how to pass around for ourselves. You're right, Jason. A lot of respect for the homeland, respect for the men, women, and children, respect for our customs, for our history, for our culture, you know. So I just wanted to kind of make sure we had some information about this Charles Leto story. I don't want to spend too much more time on the Charles Leto story, because I do want to get on to Karrmelo and then get on to Diddy. But I thought this was something that needed to be brought to the light, and we need to know what's going on. That Charles Leto is held in first appearance court on one count each of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, aggravated battery, and aggravated discharge of a firearm. ESED says, I propose we label ourselves as Ethiopians. It's a label given by the Greeks and accepted by us, and we could never colonize as people. I mean, but you know people gonna have some pushback on that, because we are not from Ethiopia specifically that we know of, right? So I'm not saying don't call it. I'm not in the name game. Look, Call yourself what you want to call yourself. I don't care what you call yourself. As long as we understand who we are, as long as we understand we are one. Call yourself what you want to call yourself. As long as we understand that we are one. And when we show up, that we show up as one, and we put the labels to the side, like Malcolm X said, put all the labels to the side, and understand that we are united as a people under our code of conduct, under our commonality, under our heritage, under our history, and we move forward as one. We're going to call ourselves what we want to call ourselves, but as long as we show up and show out as one, that's all I care about. And bless one, Anika, you don't think there's Black Native Americans, but we don't see. We can start there, just trusting each other, like, right? Trust. Yes, we got to trust each other like him. Okay, we bumping in this chat today. That's what I'm talking about. Let's get them more. Make sure y'all hit that like button too, please. 28 people in here. Please, everybody hit that like button. Get all these blessed one. All right. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. Y'all getting it in the comments. I'm gonna go ahead and move on. So let's get into this Carmelo Anthony case. Let's get caught up on what's going on in this with Carmelo Anthony and what led to him being indicted.
Grand jury indicted 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony just last week for a deadly altercation that happened at a Texas track meet in April. And now News Nation has viewed a critical piece of video evidence. 17-year-old Austin Metcalf was killed. Anthony admits he stabbed Metcalf while both took cover under a team tent during a rain delay. But Anthony says he was acting in self-defense. News Nation's Rich McHugh has been tracking this case. And Rich, you are one of the reporters who got to view this important piece of evidence.
Yeah, Nicole, they allowed me to view this video under strict conditions. I couldn't record anything. I couldn't take pictures. I could take notes, but that's about it. They would play it one time, and they wouldn't even rewind it or play it again, even the moment in question. So what I saw in the video was ultimately, it's from the press box across the field on the 45-yard line. You can view a yellow tent across the field. That's where this incident happened. There's no sound on the video, and it's raining. And you can see about 30 to 40 people around the field. It's a track meet that morning, so they're preparing for this track meet. The incident in question happens at 9:44 a.m. It's really calm up until that point, and then chaos ensues, and you can't really make up anybody. You can't make out individuals. You can see people and colors and what they're wearing, but you can't make out identities. But again, at 9:44, chaos ensues. What I did not see was any obvious physical altercation leading up to the stabbing. Now, I went inside the stadium earlier this morning to try and give our viewers a better vantage point of where this all happened. Take a look. Across the field, you can see where the press box cameras captured everything. We're on the 45-yard line here. This is where it ultimately happened. There's a tent right up here, the kind of the sports tent where everybody was huddled at 9:44. Whatever went down happened right here. Everybody kind of took off. Now, according to police reports, Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony were here at this track meet. Austin Metcalf told Anthony he needed to move out from under their team's tent when Anthony grabbed his bag, reached inside, and told Austin, quote, "Touch me and see what happens." The police report states Metcalf grabbed Anthony to tell him to move. Anthony pulled out a knife, stabbed Metcalf once in the chest, and ran. Metcalf died in his twin brother's arms, and now, as of last week, Carmelo Anthony indicted for first-degree murder. Nicole?
So, Rich, how might this affect court?
Well, it's a good question. Court date has not yet been set. His first appearance is set, I believe, for July 17th. This video, from what I saw, the question I have is, will they be able to enhance it and to view it, to zoom in? Because what I saw happened very quickly, and there was no obvious altercation just before. So it could be a case where both sides will see what they want to see, but the question remains, how much can they kind of alter or zoom in on this video, Nicole?
All right, Rich McHugh live for us there as this case continues to unfold. Rich, thank you.
Many of you were.
So that's some of the update that they have on the Carmelo Anthony case. According to that news clip, they have some video of the incident. I don't know if the video explicitly shows what happened in that incident, but they have video of the incident overall, the area of the incident. Now, before I go further, look, I see y'all going at it in the comments. I don't mind debating in the comments. Keep it respectful. Please keep y'all debates and your discussions. Please just keep it respectful. That's all I ask in the comments. We come here to have a good time. Everybody learning from each other. Just please be respectful in what you got going on. That's all I'm asking. Strict conditions, the fixes on the Bisco messed around and found out. I can't trust PC. Help me, bring me up to speed on what can't trust the PC. Help me, bring me up to speed on that, please, Damon. I've been under a rock, please. ESD, I saw your comment, and bear in mind, Ethiopia is not a country. And I get it. Like, that's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying I disagree with us calling each other Ethiopians. I'm not saying I disagree with that, but I am saying I know others will. There's going to be a whole lot of people, a whole slew of people who do that. But I am saying we're at the point now where we have so many different ideas flowing, and we have so many different schools of thought that we call this black community, this conscious community, that we're gonna have so many different names that we call ourselves. And I feel if we get bogged down on what we're trying to call ourselves, then we'll never get to the part where we're actually moving forward. So as long as we move forward under a strict code of conduct, under a real code of conduct, then we'll be good no matter what we call ourselves. I got you. So, so there you go, Kush. There you go. So this Carmelo Anthony thing, right? He was indicted. So he's now 18 years old. He's accused of fatally stabbing another teen during an altercation at the Frisco ISD track meet in early April. So at the time it was 17. Now he's 18 and he's been indicted, right? At the time of the incident, he was 17. He was arrested on April 2nd in connection with the stabbing death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf during the track meet. The teen, who is facing first-degree murder charge, has been on house arrest since being released. He was released by a judge on house arrest on April 14th. If convicted, Anthony could face a possible 5 to 99 years or life in prison in the Texas criminal justice system. 17-year-olds are considered adults in Texas. So this is what Carmelo Anthony is facing. And we already know that Karrmelo did admit to the stabbing of Austin Metcalf in self-defense. We already know that. So Collin County District Attorney Greg Willis announced that his team worked to present evidence to the grand jury for weeks. We know this case has struck a deep nerve here in Collin County and beyond. That's understandable. When something like this happens at a school event, it shakes up people to the core, Willis said in a statement. But the justice system works best when it moves with the steadiness and with the principles. That's what we're committed to, and that's exactly what this case deserves. So Willis acknowledged Austin Metcalf's family following the formal incident, asking the community to keep them in your thoughts and, if you're willing, in your prayers. Says, I am pleased that we're moving forward with the first-degree murder indictment. It now goes into the court system. I fully believe that justice will be served for Austin Metcalf. I look forward to a forthcoming trial, but it will never bring my son back. And so Jeff Metcalf has been an interesting piece to this puzzle, interesting piece in this case, the way he has handled it and giving forgiveness and grace to the Carmelo Anthony family, right? So, and that's important in the video that when we get back into the video for the lead attorney is talking about. And so the question is, well, because I know we read the police report here on this channel, like on one of the videos, we read the police report. So the evidence or the statements in the police report are pointing to Carmelo Anthony practicing self-defense, but somehow he ended up indicted. And I've been coming across videos for the past couple months saying that there were flaws in Carmelo Anthony's defense team. And that's what I wanted to get into. That's what I wanted to get into, because his defense team may not be the best. And janky lawyers will be a theme of these last two segments, right? So this is from the lead attorney. Let's let the lead attorney, let's get into it with the lead attorney.
Surprised at a point that I made in my last video on how Carmelo Anthony's family has actually costed Karrmelo extra years in prison. So many extra years. You wanted me to expound on that further because you had not heard anyone make that point. Well, that's why I'm here. I'm giving you the perspective not of a YouTuber reacting to news, but of an attorney who's practiced for more than 20 years. This is behind the scenes info. So let's get to it. Now, let me explain on how Carmelo's mother basically sentenced her own son Karrmelo to an extra 10 to 30 more years in prison and what she can do about it now to try to fix it. I explained in my last video that Carmelo's mother apparently hired a family spokesperson, one Dominique Alexander. This Dominique calls himself a minister of justice, whatever that is. Dominique is a convicted felon. He's alleged to have beaten his girlfriend. Then he got a new girlfriend, and when that girlfriend left out of the apartment, the good minister grabbed that woman's 2-year-old baby and shook him until that baby got brain damage. The good minister pled guilty in that case to felony charges and was in prison. Now, this is the man that Carmelo's mom chose to speak on Karrmelo and the family's behalf. The good.
Now, that might not be the best decision, to hire a person like that to defend the family in a case like this. That may not be the best decision, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out more. Like I say, I'm not agreeing with the lead attorney. I just thought his perspective was interesting and decided, well, let's check it out.
Baby shaking minister. The minister did exactly what you would expect a convicted felon to do when handling Karrmelo's case. He absolutely destroyed it. How? He ostracized the most important person in Karrmelo's case. Now, who is that? Is that the judge? No. Is that the prosecutor? No. The most important person alive in Karrmelo's case is actually Jeff Metcalf, the father of the young man that Carmelo Anthony killed, Austin Metcalf. The father, Jeff Metcalf, is the linchpin to Carmelo's entire future. Let me tell you.
I bet he is a tether in the whole, and we're learning he's a whole lot more, but this is what I'm saying, like, what would lead to this indictment? And these may be factors that led to the indictment of Carmelo Anthony, because I'm just not understanding. Like, I'm not acting like I'm a law expert. I am not a law expert. I worked 15 years in public health, HIV/AIDS, right? I am a public health, HIV/AIDS, safe sex expert. As far as professionally, I am not a lawyer. So I'm not even going to pretend to play lawyer. But I know how to read and I know how to comprehend. But I also understand enough about the law that things have to be proven and disproven. And as of right now, the disproving or the proving of Carmelo Anthony's guilt seems to be stronger than the proving of his innocence as of right now. And I'm just trying to figure out what factors are leading to that.
That in a murder case where the victim is gone, the case lives on through the victim's next of kin. When a parent has to bury his child, everyone looks to that parent to gauge how to react. Judges consciously and subconsciously look at the parent's facial expression when they're testifying on the witness stand. Prosecutors run all their plea offers through the parents. Reporters knock on the parents' doors for statements, and they aim their cameras at the parents when the verdicts drop. And the jurors, oh my goodness. The jurors hang on every word of the parents, notice every little movement, every gesture. In this case, Jeff Metcalf, the father, is not just a spectator in the case, he's the conscience of the entire community. If you win Jeff, you win all the sympathy. But if you alienate him, you can go to prison for life. Now, months ago, Jeff Metcalf, the father, he did something unthinkable. Reporters, as they always do, shoved a microphone in this grieving father's face and asked him, how do you feel about this Carmelo Anthony? Do you know what he said? Jeff Metcalf said, and I quote, "You know what? I've already forgiven this person. Already." Now,
and so I remember that when I first time I covered the Carmelo Anthony case. And that was around the time where Jeff Metcalf, and he's going to get to that. Jeff Metcalf showed up to one of the press conferences for the Anthony family, and he was kicked out of the press conference, but he had already forgiven the Anthony family and already began praying for them and showing, grace and all the stuff that you're supposed to show forgiveness. So this is helping the image of the Metcalf family, and what the lead attorney is getting at is how the Anthony family is reacting to that can help or hurt their side of the case. His lawyers to be helping or hurting the client. The lawyer who is talking, I don't know if he's trying to help or hurt the client. From my understanding, he's giving his perspective on if the defense team that the Anthony family hired is actually helping or hurting the client, not him specifically. He's just giving his perspective, from my understanding.
That is amazing. It's amazing that Jeff would have the strength to do that, because I would be incapable of that. The maturity, the wisdom, the strength, I just would not have it. Now, that baby shaking minister is not going to know this, but when a father makes a statement like that, a statement of forgiveness, the entire Karrmelo team has to drop everything. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Your entire legal strategy has to change. I can tell you as an attorney that you call an emergency meeting with all the lawyers, all the family, maybe PR consultants if the family has means for that. You bring everyone together to get them on the same page and let them know that this case will revolve around one person, Jeff Metcalf, the father. So when Carmelo's mother heard what Jeff said about her son, what do you think that this lady did? She handed the microphone at a press conference to the baby shaking minister of justice. And at that press conference where Jeff Metcalf showed up to pray with the family, the baby shaking minister called the police and had Jeff kicked out.
I agree, Damon. They know those twins were bullies, and Austin Metcalf, remember, he did have fentanyl in his system at the time. So I think his father, I think Jeff Metcalf understands how to play the game, and he's playing the game the way it's supposed to be played to make his son look innocent, right? Look innocent, and that's why I said what I said at the beginning. It's not necessarily about who is right or wrong. It's what can be proven. Right? And as of right now, it seems like more of the proof is going to Karrmelo being a killer versus Karrmelo being somebody who was defending himself. And so the narrative that the lead attorney is spinning or is going with is because of how the Karrmelo and how the Anthony family is responding to Jeff Metcalf, which he believes is the critical piece in this case, because the family isn't showing love back to Jeff Metcalf, because Jeff Metcalf is the one whose son was killed, and he's showing more love to the Anthony family than the Anthony family is showing to him. And so the lead attorney is saying he believes that's not a good look. Peace to you too, Music. I appreciate you tuning in and checking us out. I appreciate you. You all make sure you all hit that like button, please. Hit that like button for me. Hit that like button. Hit that like button. So let's get going.
Like, can you believe it? They kicked Jeff Metcalf, who came there to pray. They kicked him out of the press conference. The entire spectacle went viral within an hour. And do you know what else? Carmelo Anthony's prison sentence was prolonged by 10 to 25 years within that same hour. Now, why do I say that? What did the family show Jeff in that instance? Jeff, the father. They showed Jeff that there was no remorse. They showed Jeff that there would be no mutual prayers, there would be no reconciliation. Showed that man nothing but hostility and aggression. The same hostility, the same aggression maybe that was at that track meet that fateful afternoon. That was
right. He hit it on the nail, hit the nail on the head right there, right? Because we can't think about this from an emotional state. We have to think about this logically and how it would be thought about from a legal sense. If his family acts like that toward Jeff Metcalf, if his family acts like that, they may believe that all of them act like that, and they may believe that those are some of the behaviors that would have led to Carmelo Anthony pulling the actions of what he's saying. So looking at it from that standpoint, not looking at it from how we would normally look at it, but looking at it from how they would look at it in the courtroom, the actions of the family overall are either helping or hurting the case. Once again, Carmelo Anthony has been indicted for his charges. He had a victory, but now he has been indicted. So I'm not saying what the lead attorney is saying, take that to the bank, but I'm just looking for clues to what would lead to Carmelo Anthony being indicted. Said lead. I'm not saying he ain't. I'm gonna have to start calling people shine bones. I'm gonna have to start doing that. Hey, Dan, I'm gonna have to start doing that. So the lead attorney for Karrmelo, so once again, he's not trying to help Karrmelo. He's giving his perspective on if the defense team that Carmelo Anthony has hired is actually helping or hurting the case. That's what he's saying. He's saying that they should have let Mr. Metcalf stay at the case. That's what he's saying. Yes. He trained in the court of public opinion. Right. But we also see that Carmelo Anthony ended up indicted, despite what we thought.
Under that tent, some of you are not going to appreciate how important this father is. You just don't know how these criminal sentences work. I see your comments on YouTube and Twitter. You think, oh, this person killed that person, so put the killer in prison and throw away the key. Put him there for life. That's what you guys say. You have no idea. I will tell you that people kill people all the time, and the sentences range from insanity on the low end to insanity on the high end. Now, who controls where the sentence is going to fall? At the end of the day, it is the sentiment of the community that will decide. And in this case, Jeff Metcalf is at the center of that entire community. Now, let's do this. Let's suppose it is your first day of law school and I am your criminal law professor. I am going to tell you some quick facts and you tell me the sentence that you would give in this scenario if you were the jury, if you were the judge. But first, and this is important, put right now for the record what you think Karrmelo should be sentenced to in the comments. Put it below. Now, here is the quiz. I want everybody to take it. Here's the first case, 4 cases. A 16-year-old in Texas, basically the same age and state of Karrmelo. He gets hammered, consuming alcohol, consuming drugs. He does the whole thing. He gets behind the wheel of a vehicle. Of course, he gets into an accident. Now, here's the thing. He kills 4 people. He intentionally gets hammered and gets cooked, and then he takes 4 lives. Now, little law student of mine, I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to determine how many years in prison you would give him. Ready? Go. And while you are considering your sentence, just know that in this case, the affluenza case, if you're old enough to remember, this young man, he took 4 lives. But how many years did the judge give him? Well, the judge gave him 10 years for taking 4 lives. 10 years. But here's the kicker. It wasn't 10 years of prison. The judge gave him 10 years of straight probation. This man took 4 lives and got a straight probationary sentence, not 1 day in prison. Did you guess it? Did you guess 0 years? Now, here is the second of 4 scenarios. A football player gets hammered just the same. He gets into his Bentley, he's an NFL player, and starts speeding. Of course, he runs over a guy.
He's not saying that he wouldn't have got indicted, but what he's saying is you want to present your case in the best light as possible. That's basically what he's saying. Give yourself the best fighting chance possible.
Kills him dead. How many years in prison did this NFL player get for the killing? Now the victim is gone forever. You got 5 seconds to guess. How many years? And while you are considering how many years, all you football fans know that Mike Vick, the quarterback of the great Atlanta Falcons, got 2 years in prison for dog fighting. That's 2 years in prison for dogs. How many years did this NFL player get for actually killing a man? That's right. Dante Stallworth gets hammered, gets in his car, and kills a man in the street. He gets 30 days in the county jail. No prison at all. Just 30 days in jail. Mike Vick gets 2 years in prison for dogs. Now, my little law student, you ask, well, how can that be? What happened in that case? Well, I'll tell you. Dante Stallworth showed extreme remorse. He apologized, and most importantly, he reached a financial settlement with the family. Dante went into his pocket and got the family on his side. Now, let me ask you, did Carmelo Anthony's family do that? Dante slid the victim's family some money. Carmelo Anthony's family got over $500,000. Did Carmelo's mom do any of that? Did the mom even offer to pay for the funeral?
Now, I don't agree that they should have been sliding no folk no money. Now, I get him with the remorse angle. I get the remorse angle. I don't agree that they should have been sliding the Metcalf family some money. You know, if you had to do all that to get the money, I don't think they should have been sliding the money. But I do understand the remorse angle to help your case as much as possible, to show as much remorse as possible in this case.
Guys, I'm going to tell you, you do not know there are so many levels to criminal law. Now, 2 more quizzes to go. You're my law student and you are guessing these sentences, but there are a few of you that are listening, maybe 4 to 6, that are going to get an A in my class. You're going to be the A students. You're going to say, well, Professor Lead, I can distinguish those cases. In both of those cases, yes, the defendants did kill their victims, but it really wasn't intentional because they were under the influence and they were driving. The Carmelo Anthony case is different. It was not vehicular, it was with a knife. There was direct violence. Now, if you thought of that, then you would get an A in my class. That's a great point. So let me give you a case that is a little closer to home. Now, let's take a pause from this Carmelo Anthony insanity for a second to have a quick word from our sponsor, Chapter Medicare. If sit directly in for a straight up eyes full of tears. At the end of the day, we are
that's it for that. So I want to be able to transition to my next story. So I think we get it. Said the lead attorney tells you that he's not interested in right or wrong. He's interested in propagandizing the student status. But you do realize it has to be proven. It has to be proven. And he's saying to put yourself in the best position, the best light, to have your case be looked at and for it to be proven whether somebody's guilty or not. It has to be proven. This is not an emotional based thing. When you go into the courtroom, no matter how you feel about anything, it has to be proven. No matter how we feel about any of this, Carmelo Anthony has been indicted. That's the truth. Those are the facts. Carmelo Anthony is indicted. Do we want him to be indicted? No, we don't want him to be indicted. But guess what? He is. So what led to that? Right? And we can all say, yeah, well, he might have got railroaded, but that's what we trying to find out. That's what we trying to find out. No we don't do speculation over here. We don't do speculation over here. We do facts. We find facts and we do facts. We don't do speculation. We can't speculate. Speculation is not going to help us. We need facts. The fact is, Carmelo Anthony, what has happened to him, his case is taking a step back. So it's a great chance that this young man's future could severely be railroaded, that he may go to prison. And one of the factors to that could be his defense team. His defense team could be very faulty. And if his defense team is not operating in the best manner to make his case look good or to be able to defend Carmelo Anthony, he's going away. He's going away. I wouldn't pay for nothing. I ain't paying for nothing. I ain't paying for nothing. I agree with you on that. We're not paying for nothing. No, we're not doing that. Yeah, he on one with that. We ain't paying for nothing. We ain't paying for that. We ain't paying for that. But once again, remember, we telling people how we feel. We in our feelings on this right now. And I admit I'm in my feelings on this too with Carmelo Anthony, because I believe Carmelo Anthony is innocent. I believe Carmelo Anthony was well within his rights to defend himself. But our feelings not going to keep him out of prison. They not. We know that. We are all intelligent enough to know that our feelings will not keep Karrmelo out of prison. So it is understanding that his family and that defense team have to put up the best arguments possible to prove his innocence. And if they can't, they're not helping Karrmelo. Hey, whatever you may think that, but whatever they're doing is not working. What they're doing, what Carmelo Anthony and his family and their defense team is doing is not working. It's not. Doesn't matter what we feel, doesn't matter what we think, it's not working. They got to try something different. And what they tried has not helped them move forward. And it depends on, and that's why they have to be careful about who they choose as jurors and how they choose jurors and all those things there. If you just closing your eyes and choosing jurors, then yeah, it's gonna be a whole lot of cases that don't turn out right. Right. So that's why it has to be a good process. Do their best to choose the best jurors that they can with coming in with unbiased opinions. I think you're speculating that if they were nice to Mr. No, I'm not speculating that. I'm not speculating. I'm telling you what the lead attorney's argument is. I'm telling you what the lead attorney, what his breakdown of it was. But what I'm not speculating, what we do know is that the route they took did not help them. That's what we do know. I'm not saying they had to be nice, but what I am saying is what they are doing did not help. And if we just going to say, well, he's going to go to jail anyway because he's black, then we all need to stop talking about it. If he's going to go to jail, if we feel like he's going to go to jail anyway because he's a black young man, then we need to stop talking about it. There's no need for us to express anything because he's going to go to jail anyway. There's no need to defend it because he's going to go to jail anyway. So you got to put up some kind of fight. We want this young man to not go to prison. So what we're not going to do is go up there and and continue to do things that don't work. Things that haven't worked in the past and things that aren't working now. We can't do that. We don't want the young man to go to jail. We got to get out of our feelings and really attack this in the best legal manner possible. And you can say what you want, but they're in control. They're in charge. You're in their courtrooms. And you could be the next black person that go into the courtroom in your feelings and see how that helps. How has that helped black people over the years? We're not in control. So we got to make sure we give ourselves the best fighting chance possible. Being in our feelings, we're adults. We don't be in our feelings like that. That's not what we do as adults. We take the best logical courses of action. All right, but that's enough from this Karrmelo thing. Let's get to what we came to talk about, this Diddy trial, because I've always had thoughts about Diddy that wasn't. I always thought he was different, weird, kind of off. I remember the book that came out about Diddy in the early 2000s, The Dancing with the Devil. And the guy Mark Curry is the author of that book, Dancing with the Devil. And he was talking about his times dealing with Diddy and the ups and downs and the bad things and all those things that happened to him. And so over time, you know, rumors and rumblings and things came out about Diddy. And then, bam, we get to 2024, 2025, and this big landmark case come out. And we're learning a lot more about him through his dealings with Cassie. And the federal government came after him, and that brought us to this point to where we are now. So let's check this out.
Lawyer, but we'll talk about that in another video. So the family can afford to give $100,000 to the man who can help their son the most. It's an investment in Karrmelo and towards community side on
Warning, certain information. And today we're breaking
verdict in the racketeering.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth.
As the jury has now reached a full verdict in the racketeering and sex trafficking trial of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're breaking down the jury deliberations and final verdict in the federal trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Warning, certain information may contain distressing details.
Power and money. You can buy yourself out of a conviction. Let's be honest.
Judge hands the case to the jury.
12 New Yorkers, 8 women, 4 men are currently receiving instructions from the judge.
After 7 weeks of testimony, deliberations began on June 30th, 2025 in the federal criminal trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Following detailed instructions from Judge Arun Subramanian, the jury of 8 men and 4 women was tasked with considering charges of racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution.
Combs, who has denied the allegations against him, is facing 15 years to life in prison if convicted.
Judge Subramanian emphasized that, quote, actions may speak louder than words, and told jurors, quote, the evidence is the testimony, reminding them that Diddy was not required to testify and, quote, you must not attach any significance to that. Each juror received a copy of the judge's instructions, though charts and summaries were not provided, and the judge stressed, quote, your verdict must be unanimous.
Because the jury instructions are a roadmap to the jurors when they go and deliberate. And what I mean by roadmap is it lays out each one of the charges.
About an hour into deliberations, the jury raised concerns about Juror 25, a 51-year-old gay white man with a PhD in molecular biology and a background in veterinary science, stating he appeared unable to follow legal instructions and requested a private meeting.
Juror number 25 is actually having questions about how to sort of take all of this information in that they were given for over 2.5 hours and apply it to those charges.
Judge Subramanian declined the meeting, but reminded jurors of their duty to follow the law and instructed them to continue. Later that day, the jury also sent a note seeking clarification on controlled substances. Verdict.
So the jury, Kira, had to fill out this form, which lists the charges, proven, not proven, the predicate crimes, and whether Sean Combs is not guilty or guilty.
On July 2nd, 2025, the jury returned to the Manhattan courthouse with its verdict in the high-stakes federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs. On count 1, racketeering conspiracy, the jury declared Combs not guilty.
On count 1, the racketeering conspiracy charge, Sean Combs has been found not guilty. Not guilty of racketeering conspiracy, perhaps the most complicated charge for the jury to understand.
He was also acquitted on count 2, the sex trafficking charge involving ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura. However, on count 3, the jury found Combs guilty of transporting Cassie for the purposes of prostitution. The verdict seesawed again with count 4, as Combs was found not guilty of trafficking his other former girlfriend, known to the court as Jane. However, for count 5, Combs was found guilty of transporting Jane for the purposes of prostitution. The mixed verdict gave Diddy an overall acquittal of 3 of the 5 charges against him.
So the jury has now believed that the relationships that Sean Combs had with his former girlfriends Cassie Ventura and a woman who testified under the pseudonym Jane were not criminal.
Following the verdict, Judge Subramanian thanked the jury for their, quote, tremendous sacrifice over the course of the trial. He also noted that the choice of whether to speak to others, including the media, about the case is solely up to them.
I think it comes from the overreaching of the government in this case, of trying to fit the allegations of this case into a RICO conspiracy, made it that much less palatable for the jury to take what they were saying to be true.
Sentencing outlook.
3 of the counts that had a life sentence possibility are gone.
Before the verdict was delivered, Sean Diddy Combs was staring down the possibility of life in prison, with 3 of the 5 federal charges carrying mandatory minimums of 15 years and maximums of life behind bars. However, with the jury acquitting him on the most serious counts, both trafficking charges and the racketeering conspiracy charge, it significantly reduced his sentencing exposure.
Count 1 was the most serious charge, carrying up to a life sentence. He has been found not guilty of racketeering conspiracy RICO, not guilty. He has also been found not guilty of sex trafficking of Cassandra Ventura.
Because Diddy was ultimately found guilty on 2 lesser counts, transporting individuals to engage in prostitution, relating to both Cassie Ventura and a second victim identified as Jane, he now faces up to 20 years in prison. Each of the convictions carries a maximum sentence of 10 years.
Their client is now not facing life in prison. He is facing 2 separate charges that he was convicted on. Serious charges. They each carry a maximum of 10 years. So this isn't nothing that we are talking about.
A victory for Combs.
And Diddy could be heard saying, "Thank God," and "I love you" several times.
Following the verdict, which saw Sean Diddy Combs acquitted of the most serious charges and the ones carrying the steepest prison time, the outcome was largely viewed as a win for the embattled music mogul.
This is the best possible outcome for the defense. This is what, of course they wanted a full acquittal, but if you're not getting a full acquittal, this is what they wanted.
Moments after the decision was read, Combs was said to have knelt in front of his chair, bowed his head as if in prayer, then stood and turned to the gallery, clapping.
Diddy was nodding. He put his hands in prayer, and our courtroom producer also heard his children and supporters saying yes repeatedly over and over with lots of excitement.
His gesture was met with cheers and applause from supporters. It is reported that he looked toward his family and said, quote, "Thank you. Love you, Mom. I love you. I love you. I love you," as loved ones wiped away tears. As he was escorted out by U.S. Marshals, his legal team exchanged hugs while the family section chanted Dream Team.
The family now is coming out. You can see the mother of Sean Combs waving and giving a thumbs up. His sons walking out as well. Twin daughters, you can hear perhaps the cheers from some of the supporters, if you can hear them over the hum of the traffic.
Attorney Tenny Garagos was also said to have embraced Combs' relatives with tears streaming down her face.
This is, I think in only so many words, and I keep saying it, I think this is a positive result for Sean Combs and his team.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell.
All right, so this Diddy trial, this is interesting. This is interesting to me. Now, first thing I'm going to admit is I have not been fully paying attention to this Diddy trial. So I am not an expert at all the details on this Diddy trial. So I'm asking questions for details. Because I want details and I want facts and I want evidence. So when we're talking about it, we can know what we're talking about and talking about it in truth. Now, be specific about what you're saying, that's what you was talking about yesterday. I have no idea what specifically you're talking about. So specifically what you're talking about that we were talking about yesterday. Said it was a BS RICO case and they know it. So that's one of my questions. That's one of my things. What if Diddy is being railroaded? What if that's a strong possibility? What if Diddy is being railroaded? And the question, I guess a follow-up question for me on that is, well, what happened or didn't happen that will make the federal government want to go after Diddy like this? If he is being railroaded, or other cases that, what if Diddy actually did all of these things? What if he actually did all of these things and he got off on the more serious charges, the RICO charges? What if he actually did this stuff? Because that's what my mind is, because I don't know. I personally don't have enough evidence, enough stuff for me personally to say, because I know it could be on either end. So what if they are railroad? And there's all other thoughts in there as well that goes with Diddy. When we're listening to this, bear in mind that the mogul is victimized by white supremacy to the degree of madness called wealth, and is not being used to incite our trauma. So Diddy is a pawn of the system of white supremacy because he did sign up to be a part of it, right? So trying to make anti-black people see our humanity is insane. Hey, well, I don't know what you want to call it, but it is what it is. I mean, you got to give yourself a fighting chance or something, right? You can go in there acting like an animal if you want to. Go into the courtroom acting like an animal. Go into the courtroom all overly emotional and see how that gets you. See where that gets you. This had nothing to do with RICO nor sex trafficking. So, could you give more details on what you're saying? That's why I start off saying what I'm saying. I'm not an expert on this Diddy trial, so I'm trying to learn more information. But I thought it was a good conversation to have about the things that surrounding this trial and things that kind of led up to this trial and the details that are going on into this trial. So you give me more details about what you're saying, and Tiffany, give me more details about what you're saying as well. But what to say, he was the charges, he received a mixed verdict, not guilty on the more serious charges, 1 count of racketeering conspiracy and 2 counts of sex trafficking. It was guilty on 2 lesser counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. So with the trial over, it feels like the nearly 2-year saga around Combs. So power and influence can help people get off, but power and influence don't always save you. You're still not going to be bigger than the system. There's nobody who's going to be bigger than the system. Nobody. Everybody falls to the system. Power influence does have a place, and power influence can get people off, but you'll never be bigger than the system. You'll never be bigger than the system. So, this article I was looking at was like, what's next with Diddy? And so it was a video I found earlier of, it was the Two Angry Guys podcast. And one of the guys is a defense attorney from Diddy. And he was saying that with the bail being denied and people are saying that Diddy may get 20 years, 30 years, that guy specifically believes that he's going to get maybe 2 years or something like this. But the question is, with this Diddy trial is, well, we did find out that he's a freaky, nasty person. We did find out some nasty, freaky stuff about him and the people that goes on around him, Cassie and all these other people who were involved in this case. We found out that they had a lot of freaky little crazy stuff going on. And it was some criminal activity stuff going on in there. And that's what led to all of these indictments in the case, and the federal government actually coming after him. The feds came after Diddy, right? So that's what led my mind to thinking, well, what did Diddy do? Who the hell did Diddy piss off? Because we know Diddy is up in this Hollywood arena, rubbing shoulders with these people who support the system of white supremacy, him helping to make sure he supports the system of white supremacy. So what did he do to piss people off for all of this to happen? Or what didn't he do that may have pissed people off to bring all of this around that we're talking about with this Diddy case, for Diddy to even be put on trial for the last year or so? Like, what happened with this, right? That's where my mind goes with this. Because I'm not erasing the fact that Diddy could very well be a criminal. I'm not erasing that. That's one possibility. On one hand, Diddy could very well be a criminal, and he could very well be guilty of all the stuff that they accused him of. And on the other hand, he could have done some of those things, and then on the other, could have done all of those things, but the federal government came after him. Like, that's what I'm looking at. So how's it lack of clarity as to what is happening? We're watching the wolf at the very fat sheep that is talking about what we're going to eat. And I mean, that's your opinion, my brother. That's your opinion. We still need clarity, because I'm not going to go off my feelings. I'm going to go off the evidence and the information that we have available. That's how I rock. That's how I roll. I'm going to go off the information. I can't say definitively that they're trying to railroad Diddy. Can't say that definitively. Is that a possibility? Yes. Yes, we don't have to agree to disagree on that. That's a possibility that Diddy could be railroaded, but I don't have any definitive evidence, and I'm not going to jump out the window with that. That's not how I roll. I can't do that. Nope, won't do that. Not going to jump out the window, but it is a great possibility of what's going on. Because on the other hand, Diddy is one of the plethora of successful black men in Hollywood who have been charged or accused with sexual type crimes. He is one of the many of them who have been accused, right? And so that's another thing to look at. Like, why are all these black men being accused of these sexual assault crimes? What's going on with that? What's happening in Hollywood? What's happening in this? Are these black men actually doing these things, or are these black men victims of being railroaded? You know, because we talked about Shannon Sharp. We even talked about Smokey Robinson. Smokey Robinson has even been accused of sexual assault. So I'm not leaving that out. I'm not leaving that out. I'm not saying that Diddy is not being railroaded, but what I am saying, if I'm gonna plant my flag on it, I need a little more evidence to show than Fat Joe and Russell Brand. And that could be true. That could. I'm not denying that, because it's too many cases going on. What is there with us when the causes want to see a mobile not being eaten? Okay. So it's because it's hard for me. It's hard for me to not say these dudes ain't being railroaded with the history of America and black men. But in this particular Diddy case, looking at some of the information that we found out about Diddy, it's not as cut and dry to say that Diddy is just 100% being railroaded, because he has a lot of indiscretions and stuff going on with him. Said Amos Wilson would not call this mogul success. True, because Diddy is not helping us solve our own problems. But he's successful in the sense of the word of the realm that he exists in. It had nothing to do with RICO or sex trafficking. All to do to embarrass him about the sex life. The prostitution was added just a week before the actual. So wow, what made that happen? What you just said, what made that happen? What made them want to embarrass him about his sex life? What was the catalyst to that? Because I'm not saying that that's not true, but what's the catalyst to that? Because that's a good point. That's a good point. But what would my next thought or my follow-up question to that is, what would be the catalyst to lead to that? All men are being railroaded. Legend never dies says. Only men that seem to have sexual deviations, though. Or they're being accused of being sexual deviants. They're being identified or made to look like they're sexual deviants. One of the two. That is a good point. That is a great point, right there. That is a great point. Because it's always the SA claim. It's always the SA claim. And then I also look at Hollywood, and we know Hollywood and how they operate around sex and how they use sex and how they stuff that they do is different, right? So That's why, to me, this Diddy case is interesting. I'm coming in admitting, first off top, I admit that I have a bias against Diddy. As from the first time when I saw Diddy as a young middle schooler, I thought something was wrong with him. An uneducated, ignorant idea of Diddy. When I first started learning about Diddy, I thought something was wrong with him. I was like, side-eyeing this dude. As I grew more, I'm not gonna lie, jammed to his music and all the things there. But I'm wise enough to understand that just because I've always side-eyed the brother, that don't mean that I believe he's guilty 100% and that he should be railroaded because I'm side-eyed, because I've always side-eyed him, right? That doesn't mean that, because at the end of the day, if we can't prove that he done these things, then we can't. That's the conversation me and Tiffany was having last night, like the court of public opinion. I'm not a court of public opinion person. I do believe that evidence has to be stacked up before anything, because I'm a black man in America. And as a black man in America, we've been railroaded by the court of public opinion. So I do not like Diddy at all, but this was injustice. I'm with you. Me and you on the same page, FM. Me and you are on the same page. Victims of making terrible decisions. And yes, I think this is a great point. Great point. So what do you mean? What specific thing are you asking me? What do I mean about? What makes us see a sheep be eaten and not want to be eaten for being a sheep is not that love for the wolf. Well, Diddy has the love for the wolf. That's why he's in the position that he's in. He's put himself in that position to be eaten by the sheep. I mean, it's not us who put him in that position. It's him who put himself in that position. White proximity. If you want to be next to the white man, you want to dance with the devil, you got to deal with what comes dealing with dancing with the devil. He put himself in that position to be eaten by the wolf. Now, is it our job to save him? We don't know. It depends on his overall act. If a lot of these things about Diddy is actually true of how he was treating especially black people, he might be on his own. If we have enough evidence to prove that Diddy was actually terrorizing black people, he on his own. And I would stand on that. I am not defending somebody who was terrorizing black people. I don't care if he was a drug dealer. I don't care if it was a gangster. I don't care if it was an actor, a rapper, a music mogul, nothing like that. If there's overwhelming evidence for us to prove that Diddy was actually terrorizing black people, Diddy could jump off a bridge and he's on his own. Who cares what happened to him? But if we can't fully prove that, then that's another thing. Then we can back them. But we're not just backing people because they black, and we got to move away from that. We're not backing people just because they black. All skin ain't kin, and they ain't all getting in, right? And we have to be real about that. I believe he do know the true character of his son. But I also believe Jeff Metcalf know how to play the game better than the Anthony family as well. Because they are getting better results now. My bad. The prosecution had all the chance to bring the Jews to court and the males. The prosecution was hot trash. I'm glad you brought that up. The prosecution was hot trash. Hot trash. We know that. People have been complaining about the prosecution the whole time. They did not, because if Diddy is actually guilty, they did not help him to be brought to justice because they were trash. Yes, God damn it, FM, me and you are on the goddamn same page. Yes, They break their tools when they're done. I've always said they throw their pets away when they're done with them. Yes, 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 yes. They break their tools when they're done. Yes. He either hit the end of his road or he pissed somebody off and they decided this is the end of his road. Yes. This mogul has drained the resources of black people. He is a direct link to the resources of black being funneled into the... Well, fuck him then. Well, fuck him then, right? If that's what we think and feel about Diddy, fuck Diddy. If Diddy has actually, if we looking at Diddy as an agent of white supremacy, fuck him. We don't care about what happened to him, right? But I do think this is an interesting case for us to kind of look at, because similar to the R. Kelly case, like the black community, we have a history of supporting people who don't have our best interest. We have a history of supporting the local drug dealer, the local gangsters, because they'll give your kids toys during Christmas, or they'll give you food during Thanksgiving. So they turn the blind eye, or they overlook some of the things that the drug dealers or the gangsters do until it happens to them personally, right? But the same thing with somebody like Diddy. I've always side-eyed Buddy, and I don't think my side-eyeing is going to stop, especially with more of the information that we learned about Diddy. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to railroad somebody without evidence. Me, Joseph Ward, I don't work like that. I need evidence, because once again, the reason why I need evidence, there's a history of black men in America being railroaded with no evidence. We need evidence, right? But if I've always thought Diddy as being an enemy to the black community. I'm not even gonna lie. I've always thought of P. Diddy as being an enemy to the black community. I have no evidence to prove it, but I always have thought that P. Diddy was responsible for the death of Biggie Smalls. I've always thought that P. Diddy was responsible for the downfall of artists that was on his label that didn't do what he wanted. I've always thought that Diddy was a terrorist, a savage, all those things. I've always thought that he was that. I've always thought that he was that. So when his trial came out, I did also recognize that his sexuality was on trial rather than the actual RICO stuff, more so. So people have indicted him and convicted him of his sexuality versus the RICO charges. And then the prosecution was trash. So yeah, trash. So they might not have helped. This case might not have helped. The outcome of this case, rather, I would say, might not have helped to get somebody off the street who may be a terrorist to the black community. Might not have helped with that, right? But it could have been, this case could have been a chance to get a potential terrorist to the black community off the streets, if everything they're saying about Diddy is true. And on the other hand, what if Diddy is being railroaded? But if I'm not gonna lie, it's hard for me to change my mindset on Diddy, even at this point. It's hard for me to look at him as something good or something that should be celebrated. It's hard for me to look at Diddy like that. I can't look at Diddy as somebody who should be celebrated. But at the same time, I don't want a black man being railroaded if the facts don't line up, right? How do we cause the mogul and us to funnel our sanity resources to the wolf that has been indicted and inducted into us? Us being lion and not the wolves. Hey, you got if you either gonna break the conditioning or keep getting eaten by the wolves. Two choices: break the conditioning or keep getting eaten. Jules, who was supposedly there on the video when she got beat up by Puff, how come he wasn't on the witness stand to speak about the tape? The reason they caused that Jules with, well, I don't know. The prosecution never called Diddy or none of those people to the stand. The prosecution never did that. So I don't think the defense had to do any of that. Because I think it seems like from all the information that I have gotten, that the prosecution kind of helped the defense's case. And Diddy, from my understanding, Diddy hired the same defense lawyer that got Young Thug off in his RICO case. So a lot of the information I've been coming across is incompetence. That's what it seems like. The narrative that have been painted is incompetence. Do I actually know it? Not really, but incompetence, right? The system need to be brought up, trafficking charged for trafficking black. But we need to get our weight up and put them on trial for that. That's one of the reasons why black people need to get our weight up and become a respected nation of people. There's another reason why we need to unite and work together and get rid of the trash and only move forward with black people who want to be able to build a better nation of us. But can we, what we proving? We should be able to, I hope we can prove, but what we proving? What you saying specifically? Do we have tools on this platform to break the conditioning? On this platform? Yes. It's called information. The information that we drop on this platform every day. Learn the information and apply it. That's one of the main reasons why the conditioning haven't been broken yet, because we haven't applied the information. That's the whole purpose of the way I construct the information on this channel, so we can break the conditioning. I can't break it for you. You have to use the information and apply it. Think about, in order for a person to come into some kind of form of consciousness, you have to be able to break the conditioning. For you to start to understand what has happened to you and to improve your behavior, you have to be able to break the conditioning. And then that way you can write about what has happened and then help others to break the conditioning, but it has to be applied as well. Get the information, learn it, and apply it. Facts, Diddy was responsible for the end of pro-black people and conscious hip-hop doing. Hey, and that's why I'm saying, if I'm not a Diddy fan, I've never been a Diddy fan. I admit I have jammed to Diddy's music, but I've never been a fan of his. Always side-eyed him. Always. Right, but we also know that white people are going to have some casualties on their side, but their whole object is to break down what they have built for themselves. We have to learn to stop trying to be a part of their stuff and then do what they do. We keep trying to be a part of their stuff and then behave like them and then expect nothing to happen. It don't work like that. If they built it, they could change the rules and they could manipulate the rules to fit them and to help them. The system wasn't built for us. We keep trying to be a part of a system that's not for us, and then not only be a part of that system, but behave in the insane ways that they behave and think that we can get away with it because we get delusional and we think we above reproach and stuff, that we bigger than the game. Like I said earlier, there's nobody who's bigger than the system. There's nobody bigger than the system of white supremacy. There's not one individual who's bigger than the system of white supremacy. The system will get rid of that individual to continue. There's not one person, right? So being able to understand that there's a lot of white people who are gonna go without justice being inflicted upon them, right? There are a lot of people who are white, who the system of white supremacy will not punish. But that doesn't mean that we go around expecting the system of white supremacy to give us grace as well. It wasn't designed for that. We do have an assignment. Use the information, gather the information, learn it, and apply it. Yes. So coming to an end. We're coming to an end, winding this down. Remember, y'all, hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and share. Great conversation. I like the conversation that we're having today. I like to have some discourse, especially constructive conversations We don't have to agree on everything. And that's the whole great part of this. We do not have to agree on everything, but being respectful, but being willing to grow and being willing to be wrong. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And that's for all of us, right? Did the father, he was there to pray before, after being escorted out? Did the father say, yes, the father, I do believe that the father did come there to pray before he was escorted out. I do believe that. That's information that I heard the last time I talked about Karrmelo. And shout out to Divine God straight from North Texas. You heard me coming down. Let's say, can you point to a piece of information that will embody this going forward? Yes. Go and look at my videos, any videos I have from Dr. Amos Wolf, any videos that I have from Dr. Francis Cresswell, any videos that I have from Dr. Joy DeGrew Leary, any videos that I have from Dr. Naeem Akbar, any videos that I have on anything that is pointing to breaking the psychological chains of slavery that's put up on us. Unity mentality. Yes, Jason. Yes, 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 yes. That's what I like to hear. Got to ring. Yeah, me too. Me too. It's 5 o'clock. I got to get up out of here and get me some food and end this day. You know what I'm talking about? But I want to, first of all, you know how I do, give a shout out to Tiffany B for dropping in. Thank you. See you later. Jason Reels Network. Y'all, thank you, Jason. And remember, when you come onto the stream, if you run a YouTube channel, podcast, anything, put your links in the description so we can support you. ESD, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for contributing to the conversation. Divine God, I appreciate you. Straight out of North Texas, you heard me. Kush, I appreciate you. FM, I appreciate you. Federated States of Kemet, I appreciate you. Who else did we have up in the building today? Legends Never Die, I appreciate you. Who else we had up in here? D. Stevenson 100, I appreciate you for popping up in here and hopping and chatting with us. Damon Reeves, you already know what it is, my brother. I appreciate you every week. Music, peace to you once again. Blessed One, peace to you. Anika Corbett, peace to you, Anika Corbett. And who else we got up in here that came up and rocked with us today? So that's everybody who rocked with us today. So I appreciate everybody who's been rocking with On the Shoulders of Giants. Make sure you continue to rock with On the Shoulders of Giants. We don't have all the answers, but we're going to work to get the answers, as many answers as possible, get some understanding and some application of what we understand. So let's continue to do this. Remember, we talked about Charles Leto, who killed one young black boy and fatally wounded another by shooting them because he claimed that the boys stole his bike and were threatening him. So just a white man who fatally shot 2 young black boys and is claiming self-defense, but there's no evidence to prove it's self-defense. An update on the Carmelo Anthony case. Carmelo Anthony has been indicted, and it looks like the defense team that the family hired is not the best, and they're not helping the case at this point. And the last thing we talked about was Sean P. Diddy Combs, what's going on with him. I believe that they may have been letting the devil back on the street. We don't know. But I do believe that at the end of the day, everybody deserves their fair day in court. Everybody deserves their fair day in court. Despite how I personally feel about P. Diddy, everybody deserves their fair day in court. I appreciate you, Damon. I appreciate you, Kush. Last minute shout out from the fatherland, motherland. Do not hold back. Come out. I appreciate you. Hey, man, I love you all. I love you all. And make sure y'all catch the next video coming up. Make sure y'all stay tuned and continue rocking with On the Shoulders of Giants. Happy Saturday.